It's 5 p.m. on a Saturday here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I'm Hyun-kyung. It's been 80 hours since a nearly 7,000-ton sailboat ferry took to the waters with more than 470 people on board. More than 270 of them still remain missing at this time. For the latest on the sunken ferry and other updates, ARIRANG's Hyun-kyung is standing by at the news center. Hyun-kyung, there are reports that 3 more bodies have been spotted in the cabin.
That's right, Kanyang. The 3 bodies were spotted inside the 4th floor of the sunken ferry earlier in the morning, but unfortunately, divers were not able to break through the window. The rescue operation team plans to alternate a total of 652 divers, sending them to try and get inside the ferry. They say they will make as many as 40 dives today, and hopefully some will have successfully entered the cabin and make progress in the search and rescue operations. A total of 176 vessels and 28 aircraft have been dispatched to the site for the rescue operations. As for the passenger count, the government once again corrected their official numbers late Friday. This, of course, fueled anger not only among the family members who are anxiously waiting for their loved ones to be found and safely returned, but also among the general public as well. Now, 2 people on the list of passengers were found not to have boarded the ferry, while 3 were that were not on the list got aboard, so that adds 1 more person to the total number of passengers. As of now, the government believes 476 passengers were on the ferry. The number of rescued passengers has been reduced to 174, down 5 from the previous figure. The explanation for that was that some of the names and identities had overlapped while multiple rescue operation parties were trying to gather information.
Right, we have been getting conflicting reports since day one, and we should be on the lookout for that. Hyun-kyung, we're also getting reports that authorities have started taking DNA samples from the families of those still missing.
That's right. The samples are being collected in advance so that officials can use them when needed, for example, to match against bodies that have been and may be retrieved from the sunken ferry in the future. Authorities are estimating that it will take about 2 days to sequence the DNAs of some 300 family members. Kanyang?
All right, Hyun-kyung, stay put. We will check back in with you in a little bit in our newscast later on. But now, as we heard, search and rescue divers will try to break into the vessel to retrieve the bodies they spotted earlier this morning. It's a race against time with bad weather in the forecast for later this afternoon. ARIRANG's Yoo Lee-an joins us live from Paengmok Harbor nearby the site of the capsized ferry. Now, Leah, what's new with search and rescue operations?
I'm here at the Paengmok Harbor, which is about 10 kilometers away from the site of the accident. Fortunately, all the rescue operations have resumed here just a couple of minutes ago, 5 p.m. local time. Most of the rescue operations have been halted due to the really bad weather conditions here. There have been strong winds and high tides. Now 5 p.m. local time is when the tides here are expected to be at its calmest. No tides going in or going out, so rescue operations are in full mode. And that means that a team of 8 to 10 divers will hopefully get a chance to get into the water a total of 40 times a day to continue the search and rescue efforts, and also try to retrieve 3 bodies that have been spotted earlier this morning. Now, the rescue team is also expected to install what's called a jack-up barge, which is a small platform where divers can use as a base to get into the water. Also, wire net will be thrown into the vicinity of the site of the accident to prevent bodies from being drifted away in the ocean. Konyang?
Leanne, how is the weather looking there right now? I also hear an oil spill has hindered rescue efforts.
Unfortunately, the weather conditions aren't going to improve this afternoon. There is rain in the weather forecast, strong winds of up to 12 kilometers per hour, and tides are going to be high, 2 meters high this afternoon. And also there is an oil spill from the Seoul ferry earlier today, and it has formed an oil band, 1 kilometer in diameter surrounding the site of the accident. Now, the overpowering smell of the oil is is giving a hard time for the rescue team over here. And because of these strong tides, they are having a difficult time setting up oil fence to contain the oil. Now, it is believed that there's about 200 tons of oil left in the ferry. And today it's really turning out to be a rough day for the rescue team here, who have to continue to search for any surviving victims or bodies while trying to contain the oil spill as well. Hyun-kyung?
Right, a very difficult time for all of us, and our prayers and support are with the rescuers there so that they can retrieve one more survivor. That was our Yurian reporting from Pengmok Harbor, the focal point of the search and rescue operations. Now, there are volunteers who made their way to the accident site as soon as they got news of the disaster, and among them are private rescue divers. They have been putting themselves in harm's way for the sake of the 273 people who remain missing and are hopefully still alive. Our Kim Min-ji has their story.
Inside this vessel, rescue divers are setting up plans to enter rough waters at the scene of the accident in search of survivors. These divers are part of a private rescue team that has volunteered their time to help out.
The conditions are much more favorable compared to yesterday. There won't be any major difficulties in diving today.
These private rescue divers are experienced in such matters, being involved in operations like the Korean warship Cheonan crisis 4 years ago. Although they haven't found any survivors on the Seoul ferry yet, they haven't given up hope.
We could recover bodies after air was pumped into the vessel. They were visible to us.
However, the harsh conditions at sea are hampering their attempts.
If I stretch my hand out, I can barely see my fingertips. If we're over 7 meters underwater, we can't see anything ahead of us. It's completely dark.
With hope diminishing in the nation of finding any survivors, these private rescue teams are doing what they can to encourage the victims' families, to show them that everything that can be done is being done to save their loved ones. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
As officials in Korea continue their investigation into what caused the capsizing of the Seoul ferry, a similar incident that occurred in Japan 4 years ago is coming to light. Experts say similarities in the two ships could provide clues to solving the mystery. Our Hwang Sung-hee reports.
The capsizing of Japanese ferry Ariake is gaining attention more than 4 years after the incident due to its similarities with Korea's Seoul ferry. The 7,000-ton vessel was stranded near Japan's Mie Prefecture on November 13, 2009, after a strong current slammed into the ship's left, forcing 2,400 tons worth of cargo to shift to one side. The vessel lost its restoring force and, as a result, capsized. Fortunately, the ship was carried to the nearest shore by tide, and all 29 passengers and crew members on board were safely rescued. The Ariake and Korea's Seoul ferry resemble each other in many ways. The Ariake was operated by Marue Ferry, the company that sold the Seoul ferry to Korea. The two ships were also built by the same builder, the Japanese ship 1 year after the Seoul ferry was completed in 1995. The two weighed almost the same and traveled at similar speeds. Experts say the ships are nearly identical in capacity and operation methods, and the lead up to their capsizing is much the same. The similarities are fueling hope of clues into what caused the Seoul ferry to list and sink. Hwang Sung-hee, ARIRANG News.
As the entire nation clings to that last hope that we have for the survivors underneath the water, distraught families of those on board the ferry have been camping out at an auditorium nearby the accident site in Jindo, waiting in agony for news that their kids have been rescued safe and sound. Let's go live to our Kwon So-ah from the auditorium. So, what's the situation there like?
Hi again, Kanyang. Well, around 30 minutes ago, members of the Control Crisis Center here in Jindogun County, as well as rescue crews, have begun to speak with the people, with the families of the missing people here at Jindo Indoor Auditorium. Now, the Commissioner General of the Korea Coast Guard briefed them on today's rescue efforts, telling them they've been actively trying to enter the interior of the ship since 6 a.m., but that high tides have been restricting them from gaining access. Now, a diver explained in detail what is making the process so difficult, but also expressed his apologies. Now, he added that around 50 divers will be searching as soon as the tides calm down at 3 different locations as the day progresses.
So, earlier in the day, there was a big row between authorities and the families there. Am I correct?
Yes, Kanyang, you are, and that was because of a video clip that was shown here at the auditorium, which showed rescue operations under the water, and which the families, in the eyes of the families, that video clip was useless. Now, the clip was shown a bit before noon on a wide screen inside the gymnasium, and it showed search and rescue operations beneath the water conducted by divers with underwater cameras attached to their helmets early this Saturday. Authorities said that the visibility was on the good side this morning, but still it was difficult to make out what exactly was happening without any extra details given, which explains how bad the tidal and weather conditions usually are. The process of the operation was thoroughly explained to the families. The divers went as deep as 20 meters below the surface using a rope and did their search in the corridors of the 3rd and 4th floors, but when the video ended, it showed no results. And that's all I have for now. Back to you, Kanyang.
All right, and understandably so, as the families of the missing are frustrated and angry at the pace of this search. But we should also make note that the rescuers cannot be put at risk as well. So I'm sure you will keep us updated on the situation there. That was our Kwon So-ah reporting live from the Jindo Indoor Auditorium, where the distraught families have been camping out nearby the accident site. Now, different hospitals throughout the nation are preparing themselves to receive survivors for treatment and also for recovered bodies from the disaster. A hospital in Ansan, Gyeonggi-do province is among them, and particularly so as at Danwon High School, where more than 300 of the over 400 passengers on board the submerged ferry were students of is located in that area. Our Shin Se-min joins us on the line from the Korea University Ansan Hospital. Se-min, what can you tell us?
Yes, Kanyang, it has been, it's entering its 3rd day. Many people may think that many of the families of the lost ones might have consoled their feelings at this point, but I don't think so. By time to time, a lot of people I hear people sobbing and calling out their names, sons and daughters' name, and a lot of people visiting here at this location hospital, here at Korea University Ansan Hospital. Many of the visitors entering and leaving the building, they leave with weepy eyes and sobbing eyes. So, and at this point, a lot of families and relatives, including religious groups, have entered the hospital, consoling a lot of family members suffering from the incident. A total of 22 people have arrived here at Ansan Hospital, including 6 at this location at this hospital. And the first coffin has been borne out at a nearby funeral hall at this morning around 9 o'clock. And it was of a teacher who lost her life after helping students evacuate the now sunken ferry. Although it wasn't at this specific funeral hall, hundreds hundreds of mourners were on site to pay their respects. And at around 4 in the morning, the body of the vice principal of Tanon High School, who safely escaped the ship, but died Friday in an apparent suicide, arrived at nearby Cheol Funeral Hall here in Ansan, along with another female student who died in a disaster. And as you mentioned, Kanyang, the deceased identified at Mokpo, Korea, Mokpo Hanguk hospital are being transported to different locations, and a lot of hospitals and funeral halls here in the region are all on full standby in case of any bodies after being identified gets here.
Sure. The entire nation is mourning the loss of those who perished. Our condolences go out to the families and friends who have lost their loved ones. What about the survivors who have been admitted and are being treated? I mean, Korea University Ansan Hospital has the most number of patients from this disaster.
Yes, as of now, a total of 76 students and passengers have been here treated at the hospital and local hospitals nearby. But at the same time, a constant number, maybe even a rising number of outpatients come in and out of the emergency room here, also being treated at the same time. Also here, during a press briefing held earlier this morning, officials here at the hospital said that they're holding one-on-one consultations with the individual patients and constantly checking on their mental status. Doctors here say that 80% of the inpatients are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, and that they're looking at months or even years of treatment, especially for a lot of young students who suffered from this tragic incident. Since Friday night, all media and reporters have been refrained by the hospitals and the authorities around here to refrain not to talk to any of the inpatients because they're suffering from great traumatic stress. Back to you, Kanyang.
Our hopes and prayers are with them. Thank you, Semin. Now let's go over to Mokpo, Jeollanam province here in Korea, that is nearby the Jindo Island where this disaster happened. Now once the bodies are recovered, or better yet, if survivors are found, they will be brought to the Mokpo Hanguk Hospital located in Korea's southern Jeollanam province. We have a correspondent standing by. Ji Myung-gil is at the hospital. Myung-gil, fill us in.
Hello, Konyang. I'm currently inside the Mokpo Hanguk Hospital. As bodies and survivors start to arrive, I'm sure the atmosphere will get more busy. But if you see around me, the atmosphere is quite calm. And currently, 11 survivors are undertaking treatments for spinal injuries and other minor bruises. Of the 19 survivors that have arrived here at the hospital, 11 are suffering from various bruises and injuries, while 8 have been discharged. The hospital is providing psychiatric therapy for survivors who are being treated. A medical helicopter is also on standby, along with 2 medics, so that the hospital can efficiently transport rescue survivors or bodies.
With each passing second, minute, and hour, hopes for finding survivors are diminishing. However, I'm sure the hospital is ready for the arrival of any rescued passengers.
Yes, well, the hospital has already set up around 50 beds, but the hospital is also thinking about setting up more beds as there might be a sudden influx of bodies or survived passengers. And also several funeral rooms have been prepared for families that may have lost their loved ones through this, one of the worst maritime disasters 2 decades in Korea's history. A task force team is also on standby to identify the bodies as quickly as possible.
Myung-gil, I understand that some of the families of the missing are standing by at the Mokpo Hospital, hoping to greet their loved ones alive. How are they taking this excruciating wait?
Well, families are anxiously waiting for some good news of their loved ones. But as search operations are undergoing a lot of difficulties, families are in complete despair. Most families spend their nights in their waiting rooms without much sleep. Although rescue efforts have continued throughout the night, it doesn't seem as though much progress has been made. Back to you, Kyung.
All right, thank you, Myung-gil, for that. That was our Kim Myung-gil reporting live from Mokpo Hanguk Hospital, where the rescued survivors and recovered bodies will be making their way to. And the investigation team is still trying to determine the exact cause of the sinking. For more, let's go back to our Hyun-kyung at the news center, and she has some updates for us. Hyun-kyung, what is the latest update?
Well, Kanyang, another body, we are getting reports that another body, a female body, has been found near the ferry about 10 meters away from the sunken ferry. And the body has been retrieved and the identification process is underway. And that would put the number of dead to 30 from 29. And we will have more updates on that on our later newscast. But going back to the investigation process now, on top of the captain and 2 other crew members that are already in custody, the joint investigation team summoned a total of 7 additional crew members for questioning. And around 3 p.m. today, Korea time, an investigation official reportedly said the team will decide whether any of them neglected their duties and are formally responsible for the sinking. One other development here is that officials have confirmed that the ship's third mate, surnamed Park, who was steering the ferry when it sank, had never before steered a vessel through these waters, which are notorious here in Korea for their strong currents. She has worked for the ferry operator Cheongjin Marine for 4 months, but it was the first time she had been at the helm of the ship on this particular route.
Right, Hyun-kyung, the captain of the ferry is now behind bars. Of course, criticism against the captain, Lee Jun-suk, is mounting.
Yes, and some say he deserves all the criticism. The reason being that he was the one of the first group of people to have escaped the sinking ferry. Captain Lee and 2 other crew members are in custody now and have been formally charged. He, who is under scrutiny for abandoning his passengers, is charged with 5 violations, including charges of negligence. But earlier this morning, after his questioning session, he told reporters that he did order the passengers to evacuate as the ship was sinking and that he did fulfill his duty as the captain. He implied that it was not his fault that the ship capsized by saying that the 25-year-old third mate, surnamed Park, whom I mentioned earlier, was apparently steering the vessel when the ferry sank. And another arrested crew member is a 55-year-old male surnamed Cho and Park and Jo. Both were apparently among the first people to have escaped the sinking ferry.
All right, Hyun-kyung, thank you for that update. And we'd like to update on the death toll here. As our Hyun-kyung just mentioned, 1 more body has been recovered nearby the accident site, just 10 meters from the sunken ship, and the death toll now stands at 30. Safety protocol, if it had been followed in the Sewol-ho ferry disaster, might the situation have been drastically different? Well, the passengers and crew of the now sunken ferry, it's been revealed, did not receive proper emergency training before casting off from Incheon Airport. Our Hwang Ji-hye reports.
This is a huge American cruise ship that can carry thousands of passengers. Before leaving port, everyone gathers on the deck for mandatory safety education. They try on life vests and learn how to use them in emergency situations. Passengers also learn how to stay alive if they find themselves in the water, how to get on rescue boats, and even how to use flare guns. The safety education goes on for about an hour. Such efforts come on the heels of major maritime accidents, like the one that capsized the Italian cruise ship Costa Concordia in 2012.
While accidents are rare, it's important that cruise lines offer their passengers and crews the highest levels of safety and responsiveness in the event that something does go wrong.
Although Korean ships have safety manuals on board, safety seminars such as the ones that take place in the U.S. and other countries are rare. To prevent further cases like the Sewol-ho, experts say it's critical that authorities take maritime safety issues more seriously and put necessary regulations in place. Hwang Ji-hye, ARIRANG News.
All of Korea is focused on the south of the nation, holding on to hope the survivors are found in what is one of Korea's worst maritime disasters in decades. Most previously scheduled events in the nation have either been canceled or postponed out of respect for the victims and their families. Our Connie Kim has more.
The whole of Korea has come to a halt as the situation off the nation's southwestern coast continues to unfold. Media outlets have been working around the clock for days now, receiving and giving updates on search and rescue efforts. Korean athletes overseas are among those that have expressed their sorrow. LA Dodgers pitcher Hyun-kyung wrote on his Twitter account that he hopes all passengers to return to their families safely. Bayer Leverkusen's Son Heung-min told local media he couldn't believe the devastating news and wished for as many passengers to be rescued as possible. Back in the nation, cultural events and concerts have been postponed or canceled out of respect for the deceased. Musical concerts scheduled at ancient palaces, including Gyeongbokgung Palace and Changdeokgung Palace, have been postponed indefinitely. Connie Kim, ARIRANG News.
Well, the weather plays a big factor in the search for survivors in waters off Korea's south and western coast, and it continues as we speak. Let's get a check with our Michelle Park. Michelle, what are rescue divers facing right now in terms of weather conditions?
Well, it's getting foggier in Jindo right now, and anytime soon we are expecting some sporadic showers with strong wind blowing in at about 12 meters per second, bringing up the wave heights to 2 meters. Now, the average speed of the tides is estimated between 2.8 to 10 meters per second, which is hindering the rescue efforts. Now, there are 3 times of the day when the slow tides will be coming in, which could help the rescue. And one of the times has already passed at 11:13 this morning, and one just started just moments ago at 5:12 this afternoon, and 11:13 p.m. local time is left for the last. Now, this will only last for an hour, and the current temperature of the water in Jindo is at 11.5 degrees Celsius with winds blowing at 8.7 meters per second and the height of the wave at 1.9 meters, which is pretty high. Now, we'll continue to monitor the situation down near Jindo and just hope for the best. Now, back to you, Hyun-kyung.
That's all from me at this hour, and we will check back in with you at the top of the next hour. See you then.